Well, if you don't hate McClellan yet, you're going to after this week. Hello and welcome to Civil War in Hindsight. I'm Lieutenant Tommy. With me, as always, is Prospector Johnny. And sorry for our friend crickets that are around. I can't do anything about nature when you live in a cabin in the woods. So
that time of year, Tommy, they're out and about trying to get a little action.
They're doing their thing. And Johnny, this week you might notice I've switched over to a whiskey glass. That is not a celebratory whiskey glass. That is a I wish it was over whiskey glass.
So you're drowning your sorrows with that whiskey glass because we have not tried not losing battles. I assume we're going to continue to either lose or just...
Well, we don't. We lose draws? A couple. We have a draw/tactical victory of quite large significance at the end of the week, but let's get into it, Johnny. Right. It's going to open up on the 12th with McClellan moving his forces into Frederick with a brief skirmish there. Meanwhile, Lee's army is actually dispersing to its separate task with Jackson approaching Harper's Ferry. Remember from last week, he was going to go off and take Harper's Ferry, which Washington warned McClellan when he left to go attack Lee that you kind of left Harper's Ferry undefended.
Yep.
Thanks.
And so that has now come around to bite us this week. Just 1 week later.
1 week later. Yep.
Already.
Yep.
It's
Lincoln is
still messing things up. You know, I was going to give him another chance with his new promotion. I was going to wipe the slate clean and say, you know what? If he was promoted, maybe Lincoln knows something I don't. And it was a good decision, but so far that's 0 for 1 on his clean slate.
Have. Lincoln is going to telegraph McClellan and ask him how it looks, and McClellan is going to respond that he is afraid that Lee is going to recross the Potomac before he could, and I quote here, get at him. So McClellan, you have not gotten at anybody through this whole war. I highly doubt you're going to get at Lee all of a sudden.
That telegram, I assume is how it was sent, could have been a lot shorter. He could have just sent back, I am afraid.
Yes, he could have done that.
Dear President.
Out in Kentucky, Confederate forces are going to take over Glasgow and some light skirmishing near Brandenburg, so it is not going well on either front so far this week. On the 13th, we're going to have some glorious, glorious news, Johnny. This is actually the icing on the cake, so to speak, the piece de resistance, the ice in your whiskey. Although I guess for some people, ice in your whiskey isn't a good thing. Anyways, this is good news, Johnny, here. We got 2 Union soldiers who are lounging around Frederick. They're kind of kicking the dirt up on walking the streets there. And they're going to find a loose piece of paper that was wrapped around a few cigars. Now, I imagine they stopped because they saw a couple of cigars on the ground and picked it up. Not because there was a piece of paper on the ground. Yeah.
No, this is, I mean, we don't have Watson and Sherlock Holmes walking around here. This is a couple of boys looking for a smoke.
Yeah. Oh, there's some cigars. Somebody dropped the cigars. Awesome, piece of paper. And when they opened up the piece of paper to get out the cigars, they realized that it's General Robert E. Lee's entire Maryland campaign orders, like his goals, his strategy, where he was sending parts of his army, where they would be, when they would be. This is everything you could ask for if you're fighting a war. You've got the enemy's battle plans right here. So these get rushed off.
At the beginning of the episode, I assume you were just joking, lying to me, because if we have his battle plans, this should be easy.
It should be over. War's over, right? At least
and I mean, we intercepted spy intelligence through a couple of dopes walking down a dirt road, but
just happened to be there.
It's over.
It should be. It should be. It is going to be rushed to McClellan, who's going to be a little skeptical of the authenticity, which
fair.
I don't blame him here.
But maybe just pretend.
But he is going to start rapidly moving his troops west towards South Mountain. And by rapidly, I mean he's McClellaning it, and he is moving, but I would not call the movement super rapid. His goal here is to move west beyond Frederick towards the mountains, where Stuart's cavalry of the Confederates was, and his goal here is to try to break the line of the Confederates' retreat, essentially, I think. But that would only work if you actually move rapidly. But he does have the report in hand that shows that Lee's army is pretty much split in 3 different segments. So now's the time to attack one, each one at a time by piecemeal, because at that point you really outnumber them. I mean, you already outnumber Lee, but you really outnumber him at that point.
Right, yeah, you're picking off little bits at a time instead of all in one chunk.
Yeah. Now, nobody knows how these orders were lost, or who lost the orders, or, like, why. We do know that they are official orders. Like, this wasn't, like, a coup on the Confederates to try to, like, throw the Union troops off. This was, like, legitimately some general somewhere dropped the orders. And I'm going to go ahead and point my finger at Stuart, because Stuart is going to quickly get in contact with Lee and say, hey, somebody, I don't know who, dropped your orders. And now McClellan has them, so it might behoove us to I mean,
he doesn't know that. He would know that. He would know that somebody may have picked them up and has them. He wouldn't know that they made their way to McClellan or anything. Or did he? I mean, right?
No, I mean,
assume Johnny, I don't have them.
Unless he had a spy, he would have to assume, like how are you? I mean, you were making some broad assumptions there that they were found and that they were in McClellan's hands. But I'm going to go ahead and say he dropped them and went, shit, they were my orders. They're dropped in Frederick. Yeah, definitely McClellan has them by now, because how do you not?
Boys, y'all see my cigars? There's a pretty important cigar there. Oh, you can have one of mine, sir. No, I need those. Those were the important ones.
Yep. And down in West Virginia, Johnny, Federals are going to pull back from Charleston after some light fighting there. And the funniest note that I have of the week, besides these lost orders, is that General Butler down in Nolens is going to order all foreigners to register with his office for reasons?
Wait,
Butler has just gone off the deep end.
All foreigners? So
yeah, foreigners.
Like migrants who have come here that are working, not yet U.S. citizens, or like vacationers who were dumb enough to take a vacation during a U.S. Civil War.
I guess just anybody.
You ain't from here, sign up.
Yep, if you ain't from here, sign up.
Tell us all about you. Okay, well, that's seems to be a bit of an invasion of privacy, but okay. I mean,
whatever, right? Yeah.
What else is new with this?
Any nefarious thing would happen with that. On the 14th, we have the Battle of South Mountain, Johnny, where McClellan is going to send his left wing to attack Confederate positions that are approaching Harper's Ferry, and he actually sends troops, and he actually engages in the battle. It's crazy. We got some positive gains here. So underneath Major General William Franklin, Federal forces are going to carry the pass against Lafayette McLaws and then take a page out of McClellan's book and believe that he is outnumbered when he's not, and then stop the advance and just dig some trenches, because that's what we do in the North. We completely and totally shit all over our numerical advantages and tactical gains by sitting and waiting.
How come they all think that they're so heavily outnumbered? What's going on there? Are they just? Is it bad?
If they would just open their eyes and look.
Scouts?
I don't know.
I can't perceive a number in a crowd. All right, there could be 10,000. There could be 250,000.
Yeah, but you can perceive that your crowd is bigger than another crowd. I mean, there's at least that.
I mean, yeah, if I'm up in one of those hot air balloons, maybe. But like, from the ground, all I'm going to do is see 12 people deep, and I'm 5'5", Tommy. Like, I can't see you.
Fair point. Yeah, you can't see over. Maybe it's a bunch of youths running around as scouts and they can't see over anybody's heads. Not even a horseback.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know.
Walking around.
Yeah, there's 15 people.
Yeah,
that's it. That's our whole army.
At South Mountain, during the battle there, in Fox and Turner's Gap, Union cavalry under Pleasanton, he's going to engage Confederates under D.H. Hill until two additional Union corps relieve the cavalry, and through the heavy fighting, Confederates are going to withdraw late in the evening. The Union is going to lose 443 killed, 1,807 wounded, and 75 missing, to 325 Confederate killed, 1,560 wounded, and 800 missing. If those numbers seem a little high to you, buckle up. It's going to get a whole hell of a lot worse.
Yeah.
In the next couple of days. And out west in Kentucky, Braxton Braggs is going to advance his units to Munfordville, where the first line of his scouts get repulsed on his approach to Munfordville, but that is not going to stop him. It does seem like we're about ready to have a siege there in Kentucky. On the 15th, Union victory here on the 14th is completely and totally for naught, as the Confederates still take Harper's Ferry underneath Stonewall Jackson. They just kind of walk into the city and take it because McClellan's army's not there yet because they're still dinking around at South Mountain. And there really isn't much of a defense, so to speak, at Harper's Ferry. And what is there didn't really put up any of a defense.
Well, yeah, because it's a bunch of folks that are like, don't want trouble with an army.
As Jackson is going to capture 12,000 Union prisoners. So, probably should have put up a little bit better of a fight than what they did.
12,000? And they didn't fight?
Yeah.
That's.
But the good news here is that the Confederates have to feed those prisoners. So really, who's the loser
do
now?
They?
Those 12,000 prisoners who are going to starve to death here in the next couple of weeks. McClellan's going to push on to the Confederate forces from South Mountain towards Sharpsburg. But again, completely and totally his goal here was to prevent Harper's Ferry from being taken. And of course, it was still taken. So, yep.
So there will be a consequence, and he'll be fired.
Yeah, maybe. Lee was actually preparing to withdraw his forces across the Potomac, but upon hearing the news that Harper's Ferry was taken, he changes his mind and basically digs in lines at Antietam Creek in expectation that, the Union forces like, hey, we just took Harper's Ferry. I think I can score a big victory here in the North and hopefully there, with a victory in the North, destroy the Northern morale and sue for peace. I think that's his idea here.
I mean, they're close. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, right now, all the gains that we had at the beginning of 1862 are pretty much falling apart here in the late summer, early fall. Over in Kentucky,
you've been saying that for weeks too. It's been awful. It's been everything we've done.
It's been a rough couple of weeks.
Now for naught.
Over in Kentucky, Braxton Bragg is now besieging Munfordville, so that's going great. And on the 16th, Lee is going to consolidate his entire army with Jackson arriving near Antietam Creek, so his forces have now been able to regroup. So even though that McClellan had the battle plans for this whole damn campaign and knew where the troops were and when they were going to be there, and he could have attacked Longstreet on his own, or attacked Jackson on his own, or attacked Lee on his own, instead, he does nothing and lets them all regroup. And buckle up, Johnny, because shit's about ready to get worse, because on the 17th, it's the Battle of Antietam!
It's not over?
It's not over.
I thought this week was over. Holy
I'm going to go ahead and spoil it here, Johnny. It's going to be the single bloodiest day in American history up to this point. Ever. So,
well, we've had some
1862 is going to be the bloodiest day of America's history up until the point of 1862. So hopefully it cannot get any worse than this during this war, because this is pretty awful. Lee is going to be badly outnumbered here. By badly outnumbered here, I mean he's essentially fighting 2-to-1 odds. So the Union forces
but he's fighting.
Yeah, he's fighting.
He's not running away like a coward.
No, he's going to stand his ground, but he's outnumbered 2-to-1, almost 2-to-1, like 2-to-1. He's outnumbered 2-to-1.
Yeah, sure, yeah, fine, whatever.
But he's facing the overtly cautious McClellan, so advantage Lee. McClellan's actually going to finally attack.
Did he just order all his men to stand there and get shot?
Pretty much. He's going to finally attack, actually do an offensive thing here, and attack Lee's army head on. And he's going to do it in the absolute worst way possible when you have a numerical advantage, by sending like one division at a time, piecemeal, over here and over there and over there. And we're not going to why would we use our reserves? We don't need reserves. They're reserves. We'll keep them in reserve, and we're only going to attack a handful of troops at a time to completely and totally ignore the fact that we outnumber them 2-to-1, and we should have just sent everybody at once across the entire line and been done with it. But he's not going to do that, Johnny. Instead, what he's going to do is he's going to begin the battle by assaulting Jackson on the Confederate left, because apparently every Union general up to this point has had a hard-on for Jackson and wants to take him out of the war. Which I guess I don't blame him, because after the first Battle of Bull Run, he did show that he was a good opponent, but still, like, we're all like,
I think
nobody could see that coming.
Get rid of him.
Well, he's going to attack Jackson on the left and do it in the worst way possible by just sending a slight assault after a slight assault. He is going to gain ground, but that is at a very, very high cost to Union casualties, especially through the cornfield that was there where the poor Irish get cut down to shit because, you know, well, we don't care about them because they're Irish. So
because they're just sitting. You know what, Tommy? I can take if I have a bee attacking me.
Yeah.
A single bee, one at a time.
Yeah, you can take a bee.
I can take care of it.
You can't take a swarm of bees, can you?
Get some paper, get a shoe, bang, bang, bang. All day I could do that. If I get 15, 20, 30 bees coming at me or more, I'm going to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Like, what?
So,
why would they just send 50, 100 men at a time, I assume? Shit like that.
And after the attack on Jackson's left doesn't work out quite as planned with high casualties, McClellan's going to say, I'm going to attack the center. But he's not going to coordinate that attack, not going to communicate those orders very efficiently, and that is a very haphazard attack on Lee's center, which does a whole lot of nothing because when everybody doesn't know what the hell's going on, kind of can't coordinate an attack. Then we have the savior for the Union, at least, where we get General Burnside. Woo! Burnside. You remember the Sideburn guy?
Yeah. I like
him. He did a hell of a lot down there in the Carolinas. You know, took shit tons of prisoners. You know, really A game. A guy, he's going to save this battle when he attacks the Confederate right at a bridge that's going to be aptly named General Burnside Bridge, and he's going to push through the bridge and then push into the city. So he is making significant progress. The Union has now turned the tide, and the Confederates are almost en route. That is until the Confederate savior, A.P. Hill, who was left in Harper's Ferry to tend to the surrendering of the prior day, he's actually going to be called up to, like, hey, like, don't worry about that surrender. Get your ass over here. He's going to arrive just in time to halt the Union advances. And the battle is essentially over in one day, which is the costliest day ever, where we have 5 main Union drives against the Confederate forces, costing Union 2,010 killed, 9,416 wounded, to 1,043 missing, for a total of 12,469 men out of a possible 75,000 troops that were available to him. Confederate losses are also going to be very, very heavy, with 2,700 killed, 9,024 wounded, and 2,000 missing, for a total of 13,724 out of 40K. So Lee is going to lose well over a quarter of his army in this one day.
So that's nearly 5,000 dead, right? 4,700, something like that. It was like 2,000 and 2,220.
About 2,000 killed on the Union side and 27 killed on the Confederate side. So over 4,000.
So 4,700
killed. Yeah, killed.
Dead.
Killed. Dead. And then 1,800 over 1,800 wounded. That like half of them are going to be dead when
or just lives altered forever. I mean. Cutting off a leg, amputating a leg isn't the easiest thing to do these days. I don't know if you've heard.
This is a total of 25, actually 2,600 men. Life-altering.
Yeah, injuries. Holy shit.
To 2,600 men. In perspective, that's like...
in a day.
The entirety of our Revolutionary War.
In one day.
In a day. That's why I'm drinking whiskey. It doesn't matter that this is technically a victory for the North by a tactical standpoint, because the Confederates are going to withdraw, although from a casualty standpoint and from the fact that the only real victory that's acceptable in this situation, when you have the enemy surrounded essentially and cut off their way of retreat, is a total and complete surrender of said army.
Yeah.
This is not a victory for the North. This is
it's
a very hollow.
It's 10 times
draw.
10 times what we've been seeing as far as the numbers go. It's a lot of the big battle casualties have been 200 here, 150 there.
Yeah, Shiloh was the last was the largest other battle we have, and it was like half of what we just saw. And Shiloh was very, very gruesome. So very sombering note. I mean, as far as when we get drunk and we talk about funny ha 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 ha, there's not a lot to laugh.
I mean, there's not humor to be found here. That's just
about this one. Now, out in Munfordville, Johnny, out in Munford, and again, I have to remind you that we have the Confederate plane. Like, anybody
Tommy,
could have done a better job.
We have tactical idiots in charge.
Yeah.
Like, That's what's going on.
You know, there was a couple weeks ago you said that McClellan must be a Confederate spy, and I think I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to make that point here in a second. Out in West Munfordsville, or out in the West, Munfordsville is going to fall, so another, okay, we got a technical Union victory here in the East, but we got a loss in the West, so who gives a shit at this point? This week is going to end with you being very, very mad at McClellan, because over the night and into the 18th, he's going to receive an additional 12,000 reinforcements, plus the 24,000 that did not fight in the prior day's battle. And he's going to do absolutely nothing on the 18th. Nothing. He's not going to attack Lee. Lee is sitting there. But aside from all of his generals saying we need to get the hell out of Dodge right now, leave, McClellan gets reinforcements, 12,000 more men. It replaces everybody he just lost in the prior day. And he sits there and does nothing because he's literally afraid of what would happen if he loses. It doesn't matter. You can't lose. Buddy? You can't lose. A blind
he needs to be afraid of what
monkey
happens if
this.
he doesn't do shit. Is what he should be afraid of.
Exactly.
I mean, hang him for treason at this point. For fuck's sake, he is killing our men.
This is why I'm not. He's got to be a Confederate sympathizer at this point, because how do you
at least a Southern sympathizer?
He's at least going, well, I don't want to hurt my brother, and so I'm going to let them escape across the river, because that's exactly what Lee does on the night of the 18th. He starts to pull his army across the Rappahannock, or Potomac, not Rappahannock, Potomac. Sorry, drinking whiskey happens, and that's essentially it's going to be the end of the Maryland campaign, although not quite officially until next week, but it's the end of the Maryland campaign. And Johnny, I'm going to leave this awful, horrible week here with a quote from a Union soldier as he was surveying the battlefield of Antietam here after the battle was over. And I quote here, "No tongue can tell, no mind can conceive, no pen portray the horrible sights I witnessed this morning. God grant these things may soon end and peace be restored. Of this war I am heartily sick and tired." And I cannot agree more with that statement. That's it for this week in Civil War in Hindsight. If you enjoy Civil War in Hindsight, check out Historic Hindsight. We talk about all kinds of fun things like the Battle of Shiloh, the Battle of Antietam, which we're going to be doing a special on here very shortly, and the Battle of Bull Run, the second one. We also did one on the first one, but we're going to do one on the second one because apparently in the Civil War, one's never enough.